Okay, thanks for staying with us. We're back for our final segment. With the rise of Black entertainment and the fear of speaking out, how did white privilege play a part in these stories? And while we're at it, the fear of communism and socialism and Marxism, is that really a hype or is it the truth? What do you say?
Well, it's interesting because I go back to what I said earlier. I had no idea who Anslinger was. We all knew who J. Edgar Hoover is.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time, Anslinger was the J. Edgar Hoover.
Right.
It wasn't until J. Edgar Hoover came along, the FBI became powerful. He basically usurped Anslinger's role in a lot of this and became the head honcho.
Mm-hmm.
So what was going on through all this time? You've got the Great Depression. You then have World War II,
Mm-hmm.
the Cold War, the rise of communism, leading us into the early 60s with Kennedy's and the Cuban Missile Crisis and our tete-a-tete with Russia. So there was a lot going on. Domestically, we had the booming 50s after World War II, where if you were a white male, you had it made. If you were any other minority, you pretty much did not have it made.
Yeah.
Including being a woman.
Mm-hmm.
It's still shocked to this day that up through the middle 60s, women couldn't even open a bank account without their husband's permission.
And that's right. And couldn't withdraw without his permission either.
Right. So think in the 40s and 50s, it's just I find that just unfathomable.
I find it incredible. I think they probably would have killed me back then because I wouldn't have complied. I just wouldn't have.
Well, a lot of women didn't, and they were called subversive and troublemakers. And they weren't considered strong women back then.
No,
they were shot down back then.
It's always right. Strong women is always like a negative, descriptive phrase or word when it's a strong woman.
Which is interesting when you think about it, because during World War II, the vast majority of men were overseas.
Mm-hmm.
Women ran everything. They ran the factories. They ran the families. They did everything.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, but the thing is that that's acceptable because it serves the needs of the men at that time.
Right.
You understand? Right. But when the war was over, they expected women to just go back to your place.
Right. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Put those pearls back on, look pretty for your husband, clean the house, provide dinner.
Right. And keep those babies popping.
And don't open your mouth.
Mm-hmm. Don't
have an opinion.
Yeah, just agree with your husband.
The era of barefoot and pregnant?
Yeah.
God, I always hated that.
I don't understand why you have to be barefoot, though.
I never understood.
I guess it's so you can't.
That way you can't run very
Yeah,
quickly.
you can't escape.
Good point, Phil. That's really good.
Oh.
Just as a sidebar, as we're talking about all these things, don't forget, during the 50s, we had the McCarthy hearings.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you to enlighten us. Not everybody knows what happened.
So Joseph McCarthy was a senator from Wisconsin who made his mark in many ways like somebody today from Wisconsin. I believe his name is Ron Johnson, who's a senator. I just find this just similar. I don't know.
There you go, dropping names again, Tony.
Yeah, shame on me. But basically, he accused anybody who's not showing the party line of being a communist, and he had all these hearings. And basically focused on Hollywood and the entertainment industry to start with. So people would be called in, they'd be asked, are you a communist? Many refused, and they were then blackballed.
Blacklisted.
Blacklisted.
Right.
Now, two interesting things, and this is a real quick aside. If you ever get a chance, do listen to James Earl Jones doing the reading of Paul Robeson's testimony before the McCarthy hearing.
Yes, I heard that. It's riveting.
It will give you chills like I've never had chills before. The strength that man had to be sitting in that massive room, only black man in the room, being attacked by everybody, have his dignity intact, and stand up against Joseph McCarthy was amazing. It was.
I listened to it several times because it really is. I'm not even exaggerating. It's riveting. We definitely will post that on our Facebook page. So that way, you guys, if you want to not have to look for it, it'll be on our Facebook page.
And I'll post on our Twitter account too, because it truly is the most riveting audio I've ever heard in my life. And then at the same time, they're bringing all these people from Hollywood in, and they brought in Kim Hunter. Now, Kim is most famous for winning the Academy Award for playing Stella in Streetcar Named Desire.
Mm-hmm. Stella! Stella!
She was a rising Hollywood star. Mm-hmm. She was a big star in the 40s, going into the 50s. Then McCarthy hits, she testifies, and fearfully, she named names.
Oh, no.
She was basically, did not work again until the late 60s, where they gave her a role in Planet of the Apes as Dr. Zero. That was her comeback. 2 full decades of her career because she opened her mouth, and Hollywood said, we're not having it.
And the thing is, it's like she did it for nothing. She should have stood her ground.
Right. Well, she did it because she thought she was protecting her career.
Wow.
Ironically, as just a quick side note, back in my early life, I did do theater, and I got to I was a stage manager for a play that Kim was in. That's how I met Kim, and I became friends with her. And that was the one thing she really did not like talking about,
mm-hmm.
although she would say it was the biggest regret of her life.
Wow.
That she did what she did. Not because that she lost work. Her husband was just a successful Hollywood screenwriter. The money was coming in, but she lost her dignity. She lost herself.
Right.
Because she sold out, thinking she was doing the right thing.
Yeah, it's never the right thing when your arm is being twisted. You know, you have a gut feeling that it's not right, you know?
Right. And so many of the actors back then in the 50s stood up against the McCarthyism and refused to release names, and their jobs were at stake. I mean, they were bringing people in like Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz.
Yeah.
And they refused to do it. But again, you're looking at somebody like Kim Hunter, that she was a woman. She had to find a way of getting a foothold in Hollywood and staying there. It wasn't enough just to get a job.
Right.
But and she had the award already, so her career was on the rise.
Right. That's a shame.
So we have the threat of communism, Marxism, socialism, all the isms that are really bad. So in the 50s, after World War II, and the triumph of America over the evils of Nazism and fascism, then suddenly we're worried about communism, socialism, Marxism, all the isms that could come out. And a senator, to make a name for himself, decides to hold these hearings and basically subverts democracy.
Right.
And the process takes a lot of people down. Meanwhile, we're still attacking Billie Holiday.
Right.
Meanwhile, they're forcing Marilyn to toe a certain line, whether it's the line she wants to toe or not.
Mm-hmm.
And they're looking at Frida in Mexico, our neighbor to the south, as a major threat, and not allowing her to display her artwork on tour in the U.S.
Right.
She was famous all over the world. It wasn't until she died that people in the U.S. really knew about her.
Right.
And there's a lot of people that still don't.
Right. And she was not welcome here.
Right. And the funny thing is that even with all those isms that you were talking about, there was one group still hanging around, the Klan. The one group that song talked about and the lynchings were still very, very controlling and still very vocal at this time.
But there was no ism attached to them, was there?
No. But there was a song.
Yep.
Wow. Well, that's a lot to think about. Well, I guess we better start doing last words.
I guess my take on these 3 women, first off, I'm in awe of all 3 of them.
Mm-hmm.
But to see the hardships that they had to go through and the fight and the determination, and they didn't have a lot of backing back in those days. It was all about the money, as it is today as well. But back then, if your song wasn't a hit, or your movie flopped, or your paintings didn't sell, your life ended. Right.
You're done.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting. Did any of you see the Netflix special called Hollywood?
Oh, yeah.
No, I haven't seen it.
Oh,
it's a fun romp. It's totally made up. It was that what if, it's an alternate history. What if in the 40s and 50s we've given black people and gay people their freedom and their rights, and they all rose to power within Hollywood. So it's revisionist history, but it was a fun romp.
Yeah.
You just gave me highs talking about alternate anything.
Right.
But the one thing it brought home was that Hattie McDaniels winning the Oscar, and yet she was not even allowed in the room
Right.
with all the other people to accept her Oscar.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what's your final thought, Tony?
I guess, why are we not taught any of this in our curriculum in schools?
Yeah.
It would be so much more interesting to know the full, true history. You know, I've mentioned before, all I ever learned in school about Harriet Tubman was she was part of the Underground Railroad.
And no details.
No detail.
Yeah.
I learned a lot more about her watching Drunk History on the History Channel, which
That's sad.
it's really sad. I mean, what that woman did was freaking awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Frankly, it was heroic.
Oh, it was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Freeing as many people as she did, doing what she did, just blows my mind.
And raising the money to do it, too.
Right.
Which, I mean, that couldn't have been an easy feat at all.
Now, one thing many people may not realize is, but our curriculum for textbooks basically comes out of Texas.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah.
What the Texas School Curriculum Policy Committee puts out is pretty much adopted in the other 49 states.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I knew that. There's a whole big story behind that, too, So, well, for me, I just have to say that if people today just had a fraction of the fortitude of these women, we'd be a lot farther along.
Yeah.
Globally.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Totally.
Yep. Well, on behalf of myself, my wonderful co-hosts, Dan and Tony, and our crew, I thank you for spending this time with us. I hope you'll join us again on RaceAware. Please don't forget to visit us at our website, which is raceaware.rocks. And please follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Until next time, stay safe and be race aware, because truth matters.
Politics, protests, human rights, justice, equity, community. RaceAware.